long time. It's all the oldies that are here tonight. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I knew I was going to give my testimony today. I thought it was probably going to be this morning because the Lord kind of prepared me for it. He does that sometimes. But 28 years ago, in October, 28 years ago, I received the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues. My sister-in-law, Dina, and I got baptized the same time in the summer, and she received the Spirit before I did, but she was afraid to tell anyone because she thought David would get mad because he'd been praying and he hadn't received. And she had received several weeks before any of us, but she wouldn't tell us. He was like that sometimes. He was the last one in the family of the adults to receive the Spirit. They had to lock him in a room and keep him there at camp 1 year till he received. That's kind of how it happened. But anyway, I did receive in October that year, 28 years ago, and it's been an amazing. I got baptized, received the Holy Spirit, and I spoke in tongues. And we have a little girl, Maddie, that comes and helps sometimes with Max. And she's not going to be there very long because we have a different deal that's going to work out better for us. But I knew I had to talk to her. I got to talk to her Friday about the Lord. She's just so sweet. We could just adopt her into our family. I just wish she'd get Spirit-filled and come. She's just one of those people But the Lord provided the opportunity on Friday to just sit down with her out in my mom's room. And she said something about Christmas, and I said, oh, we don't really do much with Christmas. We have a little Santa Claus sometimes, but we don't do that because it's not in the Bible. But because of that opening, I was able to sit and talk to her for half an hour and preach the gospel to her. And I had tried for a few months to do that, and I knew then she could go. I could let her go in peace when it's time for her to leave and go into another job because I had done what was required of me. I wish I could keep her, but I don't know what she's going to do. But it was just so nice that the Lord provided that time, and it was a non-threatening time, and I could just tell her all these things and these testimonies about the healings and things that God had provided for me. And of course, I have to talk a little bit about New York. Bethany and I had planned, I said for months that anyone that say, oh, you're going to New York, I'd say, if the Lord wills. I did say that up until 5 days before I left on that trip. I said it every time I was asked, because I've had so many things that have not worked out the way we planned. And I always try and have a good attitude, and God always makes something good come out of it. But He let me get to New York, and I know more about a tooth that has bad nerve in it, a lot more about it now than I did then. I thought if it hurt, you did something about it. If it didn't hurt, you could wait, like until after Bill got his back fixed and my mom was situated. So I put off taking care of the tooth that I should have had taken care of in the summer because it wasn't hurting. Well, apparently, the doctor in New York told me, he said, he showed me the picture of all this black on my tooth. And he said, what happens is that nerve dies and it causes a cesspool of germs in there, a pocket of germs. Well, probably had been happening in my tooth, even though it wasn't hurting, this stuff was building up and this infection was building up, and my body doesn't like infection. It doesn't do well with it. So that was happening. I didn't know it. Friday, when I get ready to go on that trip, I have to go to the dentist on Saturday here, like the Western Dental, which is not my favorite place to go. And they told me the same thing. You fix this when you get home. Here's some amoxicillin. Take this. You'll be fine. So I leave Sunday, and I'm kind of talking out of my head a little bit and falling asleep at the airport before I even get on the plane. I'm trying to talk fast. And so Bethany didn't think too much about it, just thought I was tired. And then Monday night, she says, you need to go to the dentist tomorrow. And so this all happened. We get the appointment set up for Tuesday because she's got like 12 hours of training on Tuesday, so I'm going to be by myself in that big town. And I'm in pain, and I get taken a Lyft driver guy over to the place, and he fixes up my tooth, and he gives me, he said, I'll give you something to take care of the pain. It'll be stronger than anything you got. He gave me oxycodone, and I've never taken that before. So he gave me that, but it's got morphine in it, and I'm allergic to morphine, so I took a few of those, and I was talking out of my head like I was at the hospital all those years ago, according to Bethany, who videotaped part of it. And if she ever shows it to you, tell me so I can hurt her. but it was like, I can't, okay, I called the urgent care at Kaiser because in 2012, when the ear infection went into my brain, I was out of my head and out of it. Nathan remembers because he and Dina had to take me to the hospital. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and boom, I was like in bad shape. They had to slice my skull open, clean things out, and I do attribute part of my problems to that experience. But I knew with what was happening to me on Tuesday night that this wasn't like a cold or the flu or just a tooth thing, that infection was going through my body because of my previous experiences. I listened to my body for once. I knew something very bad was coming against me, and what my body was discharging was like stuff I've never seen before, and I won't be graphic about it, that's all I will say. And I found out later that it's the white blood cells trying to push the infection, attaches to it, tries to push it out of your body. And I knew instinctively that something very bad was coming against me because of this horrible pain around here and up around here and my whole body, and it was hot and cold, and 4 days of not eating and not getting out of bed, and I could barely talk to Bethany. I was just my body was so stressed. I tried to call Kaiser to find out what I could do because I knew there wasn't Kaiser facilities in the New York area. But I was probably out of my head. Bill found out different from me, what I heard, you don't have coverage there. And I told the doctor, I said, well, I guess I'm going to have to hang up on you because I am not going to go to the hospital and have a bill for tens of thousands of dollars and not be able to pay it. And I'm telling him that, so I hang up the phone on the doctor in Fresno. And that was that. I didn't have any medical coverage. It was me and the Lord. And I have to say that because I've never been so scared in all my life as I was when I was there with myself, so sick that I literally thought I was going to die in that room, or I was going to die. They were going to come and get me in an ambulance, and I was going to die before I got wherever. And you guys just have to have a funeral here. They get me back somehow, right? I'm serious. I'm joking about this a little bit, but it wasn't funny at the time because I didn't have Bill there. I had Bethany who was trying to be a nurse. So there's Bethany going around New York, walking around Thanksgiving Day and all these other days, trying to find me some chicken broth because it's the only thing we can. She found it 4 different places over that time, but I just couldn't take stuff in. I was too sick, and so my mind is going to all these places, and it's a little wacky because I took some of those pills, and I try and talk to people and sound sane, but the more I talked, the more they knew I was not talking right. And all this is going on, and I forgot to pray for 2 days. On the third day, I opened my mouth and I prayed in the Spirit, and it was like receiving the Holy Spirit all over again. That power came all over me. The strength of that, I thought, oh my gosh, I have God with me. Because I was so alone. I don't know how to explain it. I thought I was so sick, and I knew I needed to go to a hospital. I knew I was that sick. And I was afraid that it was just going to kill me like that other stuff almost did. And I started praying in the Spirit just little bits because I could only pray for like half a minute or so, but it started building up my spiritual strength because I was thinking, how am I going to get home? Of course, none of the plans of things we had to do, we couldn't do anything. And poor Bethany, she'd go out of the room and cry and come back and try and take care of me. What could she do? Just give me water. And she just didn't know what to do, and then she'd pray over me, and that's how we spent our 4 days in New York. And she would have to go off, and she had to go do the parade thing. And I think I had watched 3 episodes of Home Alone that were on the television channel, and that was just like you'd go in and out of consciousness, and these goofy things on the television there, and it was like dreaming instead of being awake. And Friday night, I was so scared because we had to get up on Saturday to get on the plane, and I was so sick, and I thought there was no way. And I just kept praying, God. I have never cried out to God like I have in my life, except this time I knew He was the only way I could get home. I didn't feel like I had any medical support, anyone around me that could do anything for me. It was me and God. And like Bill talked about being healed from the back, I woke up at 3 in the morning because every few minutes I would turn over in bed. It was hot and cold, the fever, all these other things going on. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I knew that I had been healed sufficiently to get on the plane. And I was able to go back to sleep and sleep until the alarm went off. I knew that God had just come through for me. I was still weak and I was a lot of things, but I was able to put my clothes on, get on that thing, and somehow, because I just didn't know, all I could do is just quietly on that plane is just seem, I don't know how you did this, God. I just praise your name because I thought it was something really bad was going to happen to me there, and I was going to be away from everybody. And He proved to me again how powerful He is. And anybody, I have to say, the only high-rise building I got to go to was the dentist on the 12th floor of Madison Avenue. I took pictures though because I wanted to prove to people that I actually went there. I think I took some pictures of Madison Square Garden, which was across the street, and a couple of things. They'll at least know that's on my phone, and I did go there because it was. I wanted to cry, and I did a little bit, all this stuff, but God can take the ordinary things that you expect and could be fun, and they'd be okay, not nothing bad about them, but He can take it and make it something bigger. Because when I look back on this, I'm gonna look at the blessing that God provided for me by healing me and getting me back home. Because I honestly, I didn't think it was possible, and I just want to praise His name and thank Him for showing me again. Don't whine.